queries from your end first? Okay, so then let us start with this presentation. So this was the first recorded lecture that I had shared. Um, I'll just go through. By the way, you guys can all see the screen, the presentation. You guys can see, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. So basically, this was the first lecture. If you remember, we were supposed to have this in some kind of an extra class, and uh, I just went off radar at a very unfortunate time. This was supposed to be what we would have discussed in one extra class, where I would have shown you some code, and it would have been much more fun. Unfortunately, we simply could not do that. But yeah, the idea was this was probably the first lecture, formal lecture to C++. So I'll just go through this lecture today at a very fast pace. Please stop me if you have any questions. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand, and I know most of you have already written code in C++, thanks to your seniors. But from what I understand, your seniors have basically taught you C only, right? Um, and by the way, I am currently not looking at your chats, so if you have a question, you'll have to unmute and ask, okay? I'll come back to the chats after the lecture. So yeah, so coming back to the point, so I think whatever your seniors really taught you was not really C++. It was in some ways C. It's just that uh, uh, they actually told you simple things from C++ so that your life becomes easier, right? So it's much easier to use, for example, C out instead of printf for a first time user. So maybe that is why they wanted to teach you C++. But from what I understand, you guys did not create classes. You guys did not spend too much time on inheritance and stuff like that in the first semester. So all this is new for you. But yeah, this part is pretty much very simple for you, right? So just have a look at this particular code. This is a C code, right? C code fragment. So what exactly is happening here? I'm adding uh, two header files to it. I'm calling them add.h and multiply.h. And then in my code, I'm calling some functions here, right? Add to result, multiply with result. So the question is, what exactly can you infer from this code, right? Um, the best guess, I've not told you anything about add.h, multiply.h, but maybe a good guess is that there are two methods, these add and add to result. Probably they are coming from add.h, just a common sense. And then there are two methods, multiply and multiply with result. And they are probably coming out from this multiply.h, right? So again, this is just a basic hunch, right? And both these hunches are correct, that we are using two library functions here from one particular header file and another two library functions from another header file. But when you try to actually execute this, when you try to compile this program, there will be an error, right? What will be that error? um, the major issue here is something like this, that if you open up add.h and multiply.h, they are essentially saying that there are two methods, three actually, that they have. Um, you can see that this reset method is a problem because it is there in both the files, and the other problem is this result variable, right? And this is in fact the point that is going to create a problem, that many a times when you have these header files, in that when you include it in your programs, the issue is that you have to figure out a number of things. You have to basically see that there is no conflict between variables of these two header files. Remember, I'm not talking about the problem of multiple inclusion. That part is taken care of by this if and def and hash define thing. I'm talking about two particular header files, which are actually declaring the same variable or the same method, same function, right? So there will be a clash when you'll try to use these variables or these functions. There's going to be a clash. So this is the problem. Okay, with C, this has to be done manually, right? So if you are using two different header files, especially if these two header files are coming from two different sources, and if you want to use both of them in your code, uh, one of the major issues that you might have to look into is these kind of conflicts. You know, there should not be a conflict between what is defined in what is declared in one header file versus what is declared in another header file. So in C++, they actually introduced a mechanism to handle such issues. Right? This mechanism is known as namespace. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys would have written this many times when you wrote code, right? You would have used this term called using namespace std. I'm not sure whether your seniors actually told you what it meant. Maybe they could have given you just a simple explanation saying that in order to use the library functions you should do this or something like that, but I'm not sure whether they have given you a detailed explanation of what a namespace is. But essentially a namespace is a kind of a container. It's a collection, right? So whenever you say there is a particular namespace involved here, what it really means is that there is a container, and whatever you put inside this container can be identified by the name of the container, right? So it's similar to saying this. Uh, if you buy, let us say, two sandwiches, and you put them in the same carry bag, and you say one sandwich is for me and one sandwich is for my friend, when you, let us say, reach your hostel room, it's really not possible to say which sandwich is yours and which sandwich is your friend's sandwich, right? um, but imagine that both these sandwiches were packed separately into two different carry bags, right? So then it is much more easier for you to say, okay, the one in my right hand belongs to me, and the one in my left hand belongs to my friend. So it is kind of a similar thing, right? That these namespaces are a kind of carry bags. Okay, they don't really have a significance as such. I mean, they are just a carry bag, but their significance comes out when you are having like the same entity, which could be present multiple times, right? It is the same thing. It is the same sandwich, which is like present more than once. But these two carry bags are are helpful in identifying which sandwich belongs to whom. The same way, whenever we are writing some code in C++, there is a concept of namespace. That this namespace concept allows you to differentiate, let us say, the result variable of the add.h file from the result variable of the multiply.h file. So all within a particular namespace, you still need to have uniqueness. Okay, so it's not possible to declare two result variables in the same namespace. But within, outside the namespace, there could be duplications. So if you are adding two namespaces in your program, ns1 and let us say ns2, you can have the same variable name in both of them, and there is no issues. You can easily use both of them, right? So all identifiers within a namespace must be unique, but there can be duplicates outside, and these namespaces can also be hierarchical. So you can basically say, just to continue with that carry back example, you could actually get the two sandwiches packed separately, and then you can ask the guy to give you a larger carry back, to put again both of them, something like this. That basically, these namespaces can be hierarchical. So you can have one namespace inside another namespace. Although I usually do not find it much useful. um, people use it, but usually in C++, in Java, actually you have a concept of a package. The package concept seems to be much more refined to me. um, Namespaces might be a little more confusing, because especially because you can actually split the code involved in a namespace across multiple files, and even within the file, it could be like multiple sections, right? But and so it becomes a little difficult to manage. uh, but yeah, at least like one level namespaces are a good concept. You should know it and you should use it in your code, right? It is always a good practice. So now the idea is, whenever you write your code, the problem is not really to care at the level of variables. The problem is to care at the level of namespaces. So as long as you are using a namespace which is good enough, which is unique enough, you should not really worry. Yeah, and whenever you want to access a particular variable or a function, something within a namespace, what you need to do is you need to use this operator. Okay, these are two colons, and we call them as the scope resolution operator. So, and creating a namespace is very similar to, let us say, creating a code block. So you create it like this namespace, and then you put the name of the namespace, and then within this block, whatever goes in here, it becomes a part of this namespace. Again, this is the carry back, right? So now what I have said is I am just adding two namespaces here, add underscore ns and multiply underscore ns, and all this here becomes a part of this namespace. And then when I want to use it, this is how you do it, right? Add underscore ns colon add, and this multiply underscore ns colon multiply, right? So now this is more like a fully qualified, we call it fully qualified names. Okay, so it's not just add, it is basically add from the add underscore ns namespace. So this is the idea of a namespace. Now if you compile this, it works, all everything works well, and you can execute this program. Any questions on this? On the concept of namespaces? We check the chats also. Any questions? Okay, because this is a very important concept. Okay, namespace is a very important concept. So please make sure, if I was not good enough in explaining, please read up about namespaces. It's a very important concept. Please read from whatever source you have been reading. So a little, some more things about C++. Usually the header files in C++, especially the ones in the standard library, they do not have the .h extension, right? So instead of writing iostream.h, we write iostream. Okay, and another issue is that uh, in C++, the input output is not implemented with the help of a function, right? Like in C, you had these functions, right? A printf and scanf. In C++, you have two streams. Okay, don't worry about what streams are. We will discuss streams probably at a later point of time. You can also have a look at your homework. But in C++, we use streams for input and output, and there are two streams, cout and cin, which are used for output and input. In fact, I'm pretty sure you guys would have already used cout and cin quite regularly. So cout and cin are used for printing stuff as well as taking inputs. And the way to use a stream is slightly different from the way you used your printf and scanf. First of all, you don't read any format specifiers. Those %d and %f and all those things are not required anymore. And whatever you want to print or whatever you want to take as an input, with cout and cin, you use these operators called insertion operators, which looks something like this. Two less than signs one after the other. And with the with cin, you use something like this. It's called the extraction operator, which looks like two greater signs, two greater than signs one after the other. So something like this, cout, and this is the hello world program in C++. Cout, then this uh, cout, then this insertion operator, then the message, and you can actually do a chaining here. Chaining as in you can keep on adding more stuff here, and it's similar to adding this in the output. Similarly, if you want to take inputs for more than one variable, you can simply say cin, then this this operator, extraction operator, and then you can write I, then again the extraction operator j, and again the extraction operator k. It is similar to taking scanf, using a scanf to take multiple inputs at the same time. Okay, now there is something written here, okay, using namespace std. Okay, so uh, what really does this using thing do is it basically allows you to use everything in this namespace without putting the scope resolution operator. That is the only thing that this using statement is doing. Remember, it doesn't mean that this code belongs to the namespace std. No, for that you will have to do the same thing, right? You have to create something like namespace and then a block, and then write whatever code you want. This code doesn't belong to the namespace std. This code actually belongs to the default namespace. But whenever I write using namespace std, it means that from now onwards, if I use something from the std namespace, I don't have to write it like std colon cout. Okay, so the only way, and by the way, std is a special namespace which contains all the declarations of the C++ standard library. So if you are going to use anything from the C++ standard library, it is a good idea. It is not necessary. Okay, you can always use the fully qualified name of everything that you use. So you can replace this with std colon cout. But just to save space, just to space to save time, this is a very common practice that you basically say, please include all the stuff from the namespace std. Okay, so this is the output. There are two more data types which are being added for your convenience, let us say in C++, which were not there in C. One of them is bool. Okay, bool is basically boolean. So if you remember, wherever we wrote some code in C and we had to store things like yes or no, zero or one, we either used char or short or int for it, right? And that was, in some ways, it was a wastage, right? One byte is being used. Well, you know that for a 1 byte data type, the possible number of values that you can store are 2 to the power 8, right? But you only needed like two values, 0 or 1, or yes or no, whatever it is, right? So this bool data type, it gives you straight away these options that you can actually store a true or a false, okay, a 0 or a 1 directly in a bool data type. Okay, so it only has two possible values, true and false. So this is a basic data type that is added in C++. It is not there in C. Another data type which is not really a primitive type, it's actually a class, but it is often used like a primitive type, is string. Okay? So strings, we'll discuss how to create classes in, um, I think the lecture that I'm going to upload today probably will have that. But you already know the basic concept of a class, that a class is pretty much like a structure plus some more functions. So strings are actually objects, and they do have some special features. You can in some cases use them like a primitive data type. So for example, you can put the plus sign between two objects of type string, and it is a valid C++ statement. They do it using something known as operator overloading. We will study this in coming weeks. So string is kind of a special class that is there in your standard C++ library. So keep this in mind. It is from the standard C++ library. So if you are not doing the using namespace std, you will have to write string as std colon string. But if you have added that statement using namespace std, then you can simply write string. So string, you understand what string is. We have used strings in C. It's just that the data type for these strings used to be character arrays. So here too you can actually use a string pretty much like a character array. So you can access a particular character within the string using that subscript notation, right? So if you say the string is Saurabh, and if you say S1, it will be A, right? SA. If you say S2, it will be U, something like this. So you can actually access individual characters of a string using the subscript notation. That is why I said that even though it is an object, there are many things that you can do with the help of operator overloading. So string, even though it is not really a primitive data type, it is something that is coming from the standard library. You often use it like a basic data type, and you will have to include the string header. Again, this is essentially string dot h. It's just that the dot h part, as I said, it's not there in C++. And by the way, this is different from the string dot h that you guys have been using in the C code. So don't think that if you include string dot h, you'll be able to access this string. No, that is a completely different header file, and this is a completely different header file. So if you want to use string, you'll have to include just string, not string dot h. So it looks something like this. I'm using the namespace. I have added the namespace std here. So now I can write it like this. If I had not written this statement, I would have written std colon colon string. Okay, that is the only difference. So you can see how to create strings. It's very simple. String s1 is equal to, this is a string, s2 is, and this is another string. And then if you put a plus in between them, it simply concatenates these two strings. Okay, so this is how the plus operator is defined for strings. It basically concatenates strings, something like this, right? So if you check S3, this will be a concatenation of S1 and S2. And here, this is the Boolean variable. You can see that I'm currently assigning a value using the double equal to operator. So what does the double equal to operator do? It basically checks if LHS is equal to RHS or not. If it is, the answer is true. Otherwise, the answer is false. You already know that the actual value that is returned are basically 1 and 0, right? You know that. So basically, now that 1 and 0 is not being stored in a char type or an int type, you can directly store it in a bool type, and this bool variable will contain the true or false. If you run this code, this is the output. By the way, 1 here is representing true and 0 is representing false. Okay, if you want to actually print true or false, there is a way to do that as well. You can check out your homework, but basically this is how you use strings and booleans. Okay, and this was a very short lecture. Let us go back. Any questions?
So if string is a class, then what are the fields?
Oh yeah. So for that, you should check the strings reference. In fact, I have given probably the string reference. Just reference. You can click on this. Let me just unshare this presentation for a while, and let me share this screen. Mm, tab. So many a times, in fact, now you should learn how to do this. It will be there with C++, Java, Python, PHP. If you are planning to work in these languages, um, learn how to browse through the documentation. So, for example, this is the documentation for the string class. This is where you can check these are the member types. So these are the fields of this string class. Okay, and these are the functions. So there are certain functions defined in this class. As of now, don't be too much worried about what these things are, But yeah, just to point out to what Divya had asked. So it is a class, so it has some fields. These fields are defined here, and there are some functions. These functions are defined here. um, it will be better if you actually come back to this slightly later. um, Maybe towards the end of the course you'll be able to appreciate this reference far more. As of now, the way to use this reference is, you should usually look at look at these things for these operations kind of things, right? That basically these are the operations that you can use, right? So you can compare strings. There is a sub str which can basically find the substring of a particular string. So as of now, it's these functions that are more important to you, these operations that are more important to you, rather than actually the fields. Fields are, as I said, right, in general, you will not be required to know much about the fields of a class from the standard library. Usually it will be the functions, the member functions that you will be using. But as I said, it's certainly nice to know about what a class looks like. So maybe towards the end of the course, whatever major classes you used throughout your course, you can actually open up the C++ reference again and then try to understand what these things are. But for now, focus more on the functions part. Okay, any questions? Any more questions? Let me go back to the presentation. In fact, uh, mm, yeah, any questions? Okay, so this was very basic C++ introduction. I think I'm pretty sure you guys might actually be knowing much of it, probably even before we started with this course. So the takeaway from this lecture is the idea of a namespace. So please clarify it within your mind, that how does namespaces work. Um, Also keep this in mind, that this using statement that we use, it doesn't actually mean that the code below is a part of that particular namespace. Okay, it simply says that from now onwards, if I use anything from the std namespace, I'm not going to include the name of the namespace with scope resolution operator. That is the only thing that the using statement does. Okay, and if you want to add code to a particular namespace, you use the that block syntax. So you basically say namespace, the name of the namespace, and then the block. Any queries? And of course, the other things that you should know is that there is something for storing a boolean variable, and for a boolean value. And I'm pretty sure you guys would have used strings during your first year classes with your seniors. So in case you did not learn about strings, then this is the right time to to have fun with strings. Okay, it's a very commonly used library class, and it is very useful also. Okay, any questions? Okay, so guys, I will add a couple more lectures in this week, and that will be the syllabus for midsem. As of now, what I plan is that we'll have an extra class maybe on the night of 19th. This is where you guys can ask me any queries, and we will have one more lecture this week, right? I'll check the timetable at what time it is, but we will have one more lecture in this week. So please try to have a look at the lecture I shared, because that the second one is slightly longer. It has a lot of theory in it. So please try to watch it before the next lecture, so that if you have any doubts, we can discuss it. I will go through the lecture anyhow during the regular schedule, just like what I did today, in a very on at a very fast pace. But it will be better if you already had seen it. Okay. Okay. So any more questions, or shall we break? Okay. So take care of yourself. It's a very disturbing time. Take care of your health, and we'll probably meet. I don't know when is the next lecture. Is it tomorrow, day after tomorrow? Because for some of you, I think it is for day after tomorrow. Um, okay, so we'll meet in the next lecture. Stay safe. Bye, guys.
Thank you, sir.